Yo, what's up everybody? It's International Master Danny Rensch again here, back for Chess.com's YouTube channel, and today we have the second game in my coverage of the fourth World Chess Champion, that is Alexander Alekhine. As we know, his name can possibly be butchered in many ways. You may say Alekhine, you may say Alekhine. It's not really potato though, because there is a correct way to pronounce every name in its native language and native culture. You should try to do that, but I'm definitely not perfect of that myself, so I'm not going to be upset with anybody else if they are struggling with pronouncing some of the names of great chess players, if it's not one that you're familiar with. But in any case, let's talk about the chess here. I talked about Alexander Alekhine being really a forefather of modern chess understanding, not weighting anything too dogmatically, really calculating positions as deeply as he could, understanding that the initiative was more important than any sort of principle or values based on chess theory. He really just understood how to play positions, and in that first win with the black pieces against Mises, that you can also check out here on our playlist, one I covered a few days ago, that really showed that, in my opinion, his queen sacrifice for this long-term initiative was really just something amazing. And one of his other great contributions to chess was in the opening stage. He did a few things. He has his own opening against e4, which we're going to cover in the next video, show one great game. It's known as the Alekhine's defense, Aljohan's defense, however you pronounce it. But today what we're covering is actually a defense, or let's say the attack that he developed against the French defense, and that is what is known now as the Alekhine-Chittard attack. And it's also named after the French amateur player Chittard, who popularized it as well. After e5, knight ft7, this is known as the classical French defense. We're not going to talk too many more specifics about the opening. We've actually talked about the French defense in our chess openings playlist, so you can check that out if you want. But the main move here, and the main idea for white, is to capture the bishop on e7, expand with the move f4 to gain space, and we tend to see a battle here that exists on the dark squares, eventually with black lashing out with c5. Black tries to undermine white's center. White tries to defend it and maintain a space advantage, potentially attacking on the king side in this sort of pawn structure, and etc., etc. But Alekhine had a different approach to this position, and his idea was based on the fact that white does have this early space advantage and a potential to attack on the king side because of it. And so opening up lines and playing in the direction of your pawn structure is a very natural positional theme, and he understood, again, that creating an initiative when it's backed up by concrete positional ideas is the best kind of initiative, and it really tends to lead to lots of naturally good positions. And so he played this move, his idea was this move h4. And the point here is that white is sacrificing this pawn, which is not forced for black to take it. There are other variations, but this is not a theoretical lecture. It's more to show you just sort of a STEM game, one that shows Alekhine's greatness and his creative idea here. So he sacrifices this pawn, and the point is that black has a concrete material edge, but white has natural attacking lines based on this structure. The French structure always naturally gives those open lines. Now he's opened up the h file for the rook, and he's going to use this space and a quick development to really try to just put the pressure on black and bring the pain, as they say, bring the noise and the funk. And that's exactly what he does here. He plays knight h3, queen e7, and now plays this move knight f4. Again, this was the original, this was sort of the pioneering theory of this line. The knight coming to f4 has a very direct intention of possibly heading to h5, attacking the g7 pawn, and if I don't win that guy, I'll get you to push it and further create weaknesses and holes on your king side. After knight f8, queen to g4 is played, and after f5, he en passants, and in this situation, Alekhine really just shows no shame in holding back what he wants to do. He wants to develop as quickly as possible, gets the king out of the center, and now the rest of the moves are really something to enjoy. This game, by the way, was played against the other strong chess player at the time, Fami. Hope I pronounced that right. Another game that I found in the My Great Predecessor series by the one and only Garry Kasparov. Again, a great lecture series. If you don't have those books, you should get them. And after c6, rook e1, king d8, the position is still not that clear. What I want to point out is that on a practical level, we look at black not being able to castle with the king in the center and his lack of development. We think that, okay, well, Danny just picked a really bad game that's going to show Alekhine's dominance. But this position is still, a lot of the best moves have been played, even according to computer analysis, and black does have a whole healthy pawn to show for his loss of time. And without white possessing the dark square bishop, there's the potential that if white didn't have the most accurate approach here, the black king could hide on c7. Again, because white doesn't have a dark square bishop to take advantage of that, the king might be perfectly safe there. And if the rest of the pieces can get developed, it's still a very interesting position, and black would have been totally okay. So just stressing that Alekhine's, ideas and the way he just continues to bring pieces into the game, not in any kind of dogmatic way, just trying to open the center like the classical thought is about how to take advantage of a king. He really just uses the lines available to him and totally justifies and shows his the ideas behind his gambit with a move like rook h6, which is a really strong move. Just bringing another piece into the 6th rank, placing all the pieces in an area where they sort of dynamically have potential to work together. The one thing that's interesting is I think Alekhine really was one of the first super GMs to understand that sort of dynamic potential where, right now there is no threat on e6, and rook h6 doesn't even necessarily increase your pressure on e6. But when you get all the pieces sort of generally pointing in the same direction, bad things happen for your opponent and good things happen for you. It's called potential, dynamic potential, where you're sort of increasing the tension, you're increasing the pressure without a concrete threat. And at some point you understand that as the pieces get to their best squares, you trust in the dynamic potential of your position. And I think that Alekhine did that as well as anybody in the world up to that point. And after e5 here, black shows that he wants to take advantage of the queen's position with the discovery and attacking the knight. But what he doesn't know is that after queen h4, knight bd7, all of Alekhine's pieces are going to really come together and find ways to get in after the king anyway. Bishop d3, e4, queen to g3, queen to f7, and now black would be pretty happy if white had to start retreating. Black might solidify his chain, and there would no longer be anything on e6 to target, but those last few moves were pretty forced, and so now white knows that it's time to strike and take advantage of the fact that all of his pieces are on the hot squares, that they can't really get much better, so it's time to open this thing up. Bishop takes e4, d takes e4, knight takes e4, buttercup, and here we come. The knights, the ponies, as they say, pony power, we're coming in big time. After rook g8, queen to a3, we love the full board awareness. This position is really tricky, and already black has to deal with concrete threats like knight to d6 and rook to e8, among other things. The main point here is that it's kind of hard to find a move. With this knight not being able to move without the f6 pawn falling, and this knight having to worry about entry points right here, so the position is really tricky. Queen g7 it makes about as much sense as any of them. But after knight to d6, white points out the fact that if this rook is taken, white's going to win back the queen with knight f7 check. And after knight to b6, plays the move knight to e8, a really nice move that reopens the queen. And after the move queen f7, it's white to play and finish off the game. If you want to take a second to find it, you can. White played queen to d6 check, queen to d7, and queen takes f6, followed by, of course, the inevitable mate on e7. So that game really showed you just, it was one of the original games in the Alekhine-Chittard attack, so that's why I showed it to you. And we're not going for the deepest, most in-depth breakdown, move-by-move explanations here on YouTube, because these videos are designed to be quick and fun and just kind of get you really excited about chess. These are not the most in-depth analysis you're going to find on the Alekhine-Chittard variation of the French or on that particular game. But hopefully, again, it showed you Alekhine's creative thinking and how he was really dynamic in his approach to the game, put all his pieces on squares that attacked or at least generally approached the same direction, and trusted in the dynamic potential of his pieces to find the right knockout blows at some point. And I hope you appreciated that game, and we're going to see you around here on Chess.com.